better. No, that's good. Hey, Chess Noob, it's very good to see you guys. Welcome again. Sorry for the slight technical difficulties. It is what it is. And again, welcome to Buy Best Losses Monday. As last Tuesday, I played a match against one of probably greatest players in chess in the last decade. He played a match against Magnus Carlsen in 2016 for World Championship. Had actually plenty of chances to become a world champion. And he was also I have to say, I played with him, we spoke. He was a very great guy, and it was obviously for me a huge honor to sit on the same virtual board with him. And on top of it, we played, obviously I got adopted, which frankly was fully expected, but the match was not without its chances. And hey, Dirkie, my friend, it's very good to see you. So the match was better than frankly I expected or hoped for, and I'm gonna show you. Hey, Golden Black Fang, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. I'm gonna actually show you a lot of games in this special edition of my best losses. I have to admit that I was fairly nervous. It doesn't happen very often that one plays with such a legend. And I was the very first game was somewhat difficult to adjust to, because very simply Sergey played a line that was, I don't want to say surprising, but that I didn't expect. Hey Kiplitz, my dear friend, it's very good to see you. Thank you for joining the stream. Thank you. And anyway, so the game started normal. It's e4, e5, bishop c4, which is bishop's opening, normal standard opening, somewhat unusual, but nothing to be surprised about. And knight f6, which is a normal book move. And I'm going to actually turn the analysis board so you can see. And then he proceeded with a d3, which is a a normal move in a sense that it gives white several options how to proceed. Playing knight f3 translates this into gioco pianissimo, but what Sergey ended up playing after knight c6, which is a normal move in this position, he played knight c3, and then after bishop c5, which computer actually doesn't like that much, but that's a perfectly natural move, he proceeded with f4. And f4 came as a little bit surprise for me, because I really didn't expect to do this. Yes, Chesney, I actually in the last week I got adopted twice. First by Grandmaster Karjakin, and second in bullet by one and only Alessia Santeramo. Anyway, I even have a new command for it that lists all my parents. It's exclamation mark adopted. Feel free to use it. And that's a pretty good collection of adopted parents. I can't complain. Hopefully I will get a Ferrari for at least one of them. Anyway, yes, Dr. Shelby, it's very good to see you. Thank you. And yes, Kiplitz, I even have one, my favorite adopt thing. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's actually Anna Maya's. I can't pull it from here. Yes, Alessia had 5 chances to adopt me, and he took advantage of the third one. So yeah, my favorite adopt Nicola actually emote is this one. And I'm actually I'm gonna discuss that particular match. I'm gonna have a special edition of Adopt Nicola dedicated to that match, but we'll have that later. I didn't want to keep holding on match with Sergey. Anyway, so after f4, I didn't really know what to play, so I reverted to a different opening, which is basically based on a good old King's Gambit. And if you play e4, e5, f4, bishop c5, you end up in a pretty good system against King's Gambit. And that's basically what we ended up playing. And this, if you look at this particular opening according to the computer, it's King's Gambit declined. And you can see this position is equal. This bishop on c5 is fairly strong, and I actually felt pretty good about my position here. You know, nothing to write home about, but it was fine. Hey, Korean America Chess Noob. Yes, that's going to be the next game. I wanted to show you the very first game because that was also very instructive. And that's going to be the very next game I'm showing in this stream. So just bear with me. That's going to be if you want, the highlight of the stream. Anyway, so after this, we press knight f3, normal move. Bishop g4 is fine. You know, computer, I think, likes something along the lines of knight g4, threatening here, which is, it really, I don't consider bishop g4 to be a bad move, although computer kind of listed that it's, what, 4 for 5th favorite. Anyway, to continue, bishop g4, h3, and bishop e6 is already a little bit of inaccuracy. According to the computer, I was supposed to take on f3, and I agree actually with that assessment. But again, we're still very much into an equality in here, this position, and I was perfectly happy with this position. Anyway, we're going to continue f5. So this position now starts to resemble the Grand Prix structures, and I'm familiar with this, and many thanks to one and only Fiona. And I'm gonna give a quick shout out to Fionchetta because she plays this opening extensively, and frankly I studied that opening some time ago, preparing to play against her in one of the sub battles, so I wasn't entirely unfamiliar with the patterns here. Hey, Watchful Prism, thank you so much for the cheer, for 1,000 bits. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. That's very, 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 very nice of you. And let me just adjust this alert box so it actually is centered. Anyway, all right, that's better. Anyway, so, you know, this is still very much equality in any ways, so I wasn't really terribly concerned about where I am here. And you know, anyway, taking on c4 is perfectly fine. Taking on c4, and surprisingly enough, this is one interesting position. I really didn't know what to play here because it's not immediately obvious. My plan was to castle queens, push the queen away and castle queenside. But on the other hand, you know, this bishop is pretty strong. And but on the other hand, black really shouldn't allow this knight to come in on d5 after some queen e2 move and so on and so forth. So I made a decision that actually turned out, according to the computer, to be the correct decision. I just played bishop b4. And after bishop g5, again, best move, I played queen d7. And that's actually a counter-positional move because black allows a doubling of the pawns. And if you want, this was basically also, although computer considered this to be the best move, I think from a human standpoint, best move would have been to take on c3 and triple white pawns. I considered doing that, but I ended up not doing it for the very simple reason that that would have opened the b file, and it would provide some sort of a counterplay, and white would be able to castle short and then exert pressure, because I have already kind of semi-committed here to play, to push to castle queenside. Anyway, to continue the match. Queen d3, which is the best move. Basically, queen castle, which is considered an accuracy. I was supposed to take on c3 immediately. Sergey proceeded with take on f6, and this is a good moment. Hey, Goran Zaric, it's very good to see you, and big shout out to my dear friend Bullet Mercenary. Hi, thank you for joining the stream. A big shout out to Bullet Mercenary, who is a fellow streamer and fellow friend. So give it, please give him a follow. He recently started streaming, and it's very good to see him in the channel. Anyway, so take on f6, and here is a good question about this position. Hey, Japanese tutor, it's very good to see you here. Thank you, my friend. A big shout out to Japanese tutor. Yeah, thank you. It's very good to see you here. Thanks. He is also a friend and a fellow streamer. Anyway, so this is an interesting position. It's an interesting position in many ways because both sides had doubled pawns, but this pawn on c4 exercise a def vice grip on d5, and also there is always a potential threat to the push on c5. On the other hand, and I really willingly went into this position, I felt that I will have some counterplay on the g file, even if the white castle's queen side, which is what basically happened. That was actually indeed the very next move. And after I took on c3 at that point, because this bishop on this diagonal is kind of not so useful, and taking on c3, and then queen c3, avoiding doubling of the pawns, and computer considered this slightly better position for white. I assumed I had equality here. And to be very honest with you, after 14 moves out of the opening, I felt, I guess somebody who is 2750, to have a pretty decent position out of the opening I didn't really prepare for. It's, hey, I'll settle for that anytime. Anyway, so I played rook g8, which is actually a really good move. I'm claiming g file, pressuring this pawn, and rook d2 is a good move. Computer prefers rook hg1. I think what Sergey wanted, and ended up being a decisive part of this game. He wanted to play rook d1 and exert pressure on this pawn on d6. So that made perfect sense. And I played e6. I really didn't want to allow c5. And rook d1. And here is basically the crucial moment in the game. It's move 16. The position is roughly equal. Whether it's -3 or -0.3 or +0.3, that doesn't really matter. What they needed to play here at some point, and it would be a perfectly fine human move, was to basically, computer likes knight b8 with an idea of putting the queen of c6 and playing against the e4 pawn. That's very much. Oh, thank you, Goran. That's very greatly appreciated. Honestly, that's a very nice computer move. That didn't even cross my mind. But however, the second move, which was queen e7, getting rid out of this d file thing, was perfectly acceptable. And that would have maintained equality, and I would have been better, or better off than the game that I ended playing. And yeah, it's impossible for human to pay a knight b8. Japanese tutor, my dear friend, I play all these matches in 5+2 time control, which is slow blitz, fast rapid. It's 5-5-2. Anyway, however, I was at this point thinking about counterplay on the g file, and I really didn't want to allow white to play g4. I considered playing h5, which would have allowed c5 and wouldn't have been a good move, but would have been a better move that one I ended up playing, playing there. So I ended up playing, and that's actually the blunder that cost me the game. I ended up playing rook g3, which is, not a good move. It's not a good move on multiple levels. It misses a simple tactical trick, and that simple tactical trick is very simple. It's knight e5. And when you blunder like this in the very first game of adoption match against a very strong grandmaster, super grandmaster, and even I kind of lost a little bit of a track here. In other words, yeah, it's all of a sudden plus 41, but there was still some fight in this position, and I played rook c3, but then after knight d7, I should have just taken on c4, and I would have been better. Computer likes taking with the king and tripling the pawns, which would have been also better. What I ended up playing was just it was not a good choice. I played rook c2, which is basically a losing move, and from there on my position very readily collapsed. I played rook c2, king d7, c5, and knight e5 is then even in precision, and the rest of the game is really not important. And here is a sad thing about what happens when somebody who is 1950 plays somebody who is 2750. This was a very beautiful position. This was equal, maybe even slightly better for this. I'll show you Korean American chess note, and then a few moves later, so what I should have played here instead of rook c2, I should have played rook c4, and knight f6, something along the lines of knight e5. And black is a pawn down. This knight is a monster, but there is still some resistance in this position. Play h5, hope to h4, rook h6, and so on and so forth. I could have played it, but very frankly, this was one of those situations like, oh no, okay, so I kind of assumed, all right, fine, I lost the very first game, but very frankly, I was a little bit encouraged by this game because very simply, I was out of my opening preparation. I didn't expect that Sergey is going to play f4, and I didn't expect any... and I survived it, and as a matter of fact, I'm pretty proud that some of these moves, like queen d7, bishop b4, and so on, it's a positional struggle with a super GM is always an interesting experience. Yeah, and to go back to the question about, here playing... knight b8, if we kind of follow the line, you will see that the idea between this is to bring the queen to c6, and then exert pressure on the e4, and then, then try to get king on b7, knight d5, and then knight c5, and then force white to play b4. It's a very computer-like, to be honest with you. It's if this is a positional play that Elizabeth Pechts want me to play, it's going to take me a long time before I'm able to maneuver pieces like that. Bottom line, and this has been the story of quite a few of these matches, I have lost a game because I missed this one move tactical trick. And that's more or less happens to me I don't want to say somewhat regularly, but it happens with troubling regularity to the tune that I'm gonna start working more intensively on my tactics. All right. Anyway, game one, that's fine. It was good, but then came game two. And please don't look at the accuracy. That's really not important in position of this kind. You know, I was expected Sergey to play Sicilian, but what transpired in this game was a huge surprise to me, a pleasant surprise. And you will see this is, you know, I think I'm gonna post this on YouTube, this analysis or this highlight that basically says how 1950 almost won a game, had a plus 7.5 position against the 2750. That's, yes, Goran, it's my toughest opponent so far. Yes, Korean American chess noob, I had this position. This game was supposed to be a win for me, not just once, more than once. All right, so, but there is some background story, so bear with me. This is gonna be, there's some interesting background there that's really amazing. Anyway, so e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, normal standard open Sicilian, knight f6, knight c3, a6. Now, I have been playing Adam's attack against, hey Smashy, it's very good to see you, thank you. It's very good to see you here. I'm showing the famous game 2 against my match against the one and only Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin, who incidentally was a very gentlemanly, very kind, very, humble, very professional, and it has been a really nice experience. He came across as such a nice person that, anyway, I'm his big supporter. He's a supporter for right now at Russian Super Final. I hope he does well. He's actually doing quite well. Anyway, so, oh, Harvard, do you know his wife? Oh, that's cool. Anyway, that's nice. Anyway, Kiplitz, thank you for the sub. That's very greatly appreciated. So I said, all right, fine. And as a matter of fact, I prepared this to play against Sergey. I assumed he's gonna play Najdorf. Hey, Commander MX, welcome to the stream. I'm showing the famous game that I should have won against Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin. So, anyway, so a6, h3, Adam's attack. I play this a lot against Najdorf. I like the opening, it's very tactical. And then, e6, normal move. I think that's actually a standard book defense, g4. And the idea behind Adam's attack is basically g4, bishop goes to g2, where it reinforces this diagonal. And it's generally a pleasant and somewhat rare opening to play against, against Najdorf Sicilian. That used to be my big problem here. Anyway, so, bishop g2, b5, which I have to say came as a little bit of a surprise. That's a somewhat unusual move. And, bishop g2, normal move, bishop b7, castle, and b4. Guys, I have to make an admission. When this move was made on the board, I felt like I was in a Twilight Zone for about a few seconds, because what happened here was that Sergey was repeating his famous 2008 game against Lukmanvili that basically started the whole Adam's attack popularity or renewed popularity among players who play white against Najdorf. And here is why. The best move in this position, which, is knight d5. And that's a best move. And that's a move that basically, when computer settles down, it's virtually a won position for white. And I played that, it took me about 10 seconds to like, okay, am I not forgetting? What am I forgetting? And I'm actually going to step aside and show you the game that Sergey played in 2008. And this is his game in 2008 against Luke Van Ville. And by the way, don't look at the accuracy, because Sergey's accuracy is 99.6. That's actually scary good. So this is Sergey as white playing against Luke Van Ville. So in other words, at 27, almost 2750, playing an almost 2700, and this is how the game went. E4, C5, okay. All right, and look at this, guys. Looks familiar, right? So, knight d5. So I'm like, hey, and first a huge shout out to international master Mark Esserman, who who is a streamer and a friend, and he helped me with my chess a lot. His name of his channel is Y with 7 Y, so serious. Let's see if I manage to do this right. Yep, there we go. He showed me this game at the beginning of my chess adventure, and he showed it in his stream. And here I am, I am, if you look, this is a position for that Sergey had against Luke Van Ville, and this is the position I had against Sergey. In other words, Sergey played, I'm playing what Sergey played against Sergey. And, I'm 1950, I am a patzer, and I'm here playing against World Championship finalist. I have to say that I felt I was a little bit in a twilight zone, and I knew the game, and frankly, to be honest with you guys, I didn't remember the details after knight d5, just knew that knight d5 needs to be played, and I played it very quickly. And I'm just gonna spend 2 seconds showing you how did Sergey convert this. He took on d5, and if you look at this position, it's a I don't want to say one for white, but this is very hard to fight as black. This line is open. This knight is a monster. This knight is a monster. Black has very hard time castling. This bishop is a monster. This knight is gonna come on. This knight is gonna come onto c6, at which point nobody knows what's gonna happen, and it's very tough position. And this is how Sergey. I'm just gonna run the moves through. Converted it. He took on e7, and then g5. Knight d7, knight e1, and this was actually a rapid game, so Luke didn't really have much time to even figure out how he's going to defend this position. Queen e2, and I'll spare you the details. It was, and this is actually a motive that's going to come into play in our game, this whole g6 move. And anyway, to cut the long story short, Sergey converted this very emphatically, because after queen c4, there is no way, which there are so many mates in the position that he really, Van Ville really didn't have any defense. Anyway, so this was the game that Sergey played 12 years ago, and this is the game that we played. All right, so after knight d5, I think the only move virtually is to take, and after take, I don't, computer considers g5 better. I actually prefer knight c6, because g5 is not going to go away, and when inevitable exchange of c6 happens, this pawn that's going to end up on c6 is going to control d7 file. So literally, knight would only have to go back to g8. Anyway, to continue, takes on c6, takes on c6, Rook a7, which is actually not a good move, because, you know, white has quite a lot of ways to make take advantage of rook a7, and you're going to see one in about 2 moves. Anyway, so I played g5. That's actually a very common motive, this g5 push, chasing the knight away in Adam's attack, so that was fairly topical. And you know, after that, knight g8, which actually is a bad move, because it's better for black to play queen c8, or to return the, you know, to kind of return the extra piece. But you know, Sergey didn't play it, and here is the key move. If you look at the evaluation bar says plus 7.75. And you know, and it's and I have to say, I'm at this point, I'm like, okay, wow, I can't believe this is really happening. Yes, Chess Guy 1976, and I watched the VOD, and everybody in chat, Maria, Eric Rosen, everybody is saying queen d4, queen d4. People are actually were posting in chat. Unfortunately, I'm not. You know, fortunately, I'm not looking at the chat while I'm playing these games. That's what Maria does for me when I'm playing these or other commentators. And here is the game: queen d4, rook is here, queen g7 is here. Is a threat. One rook is gonna fall. Attack continues, and it's basically, hey Davina, my dear friend, welcome to here. I'm showing game 2 of my match against one and only Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin, and there you go. And you know, 1950 wins against the 2750. I really wish it happened, but it didn't, because, as people who watched my adoption matches against Alessia know, I have one very emphatic weakness in my chess. Hey, hi, Sean Edwards, welcome to the stream. Yes, this is on my YouTube channel, and actually huge thanks to, if you put exclamation YouTube, here is it's a link to my YouTube channel, and many thanks to Hedgehog 1963, who is basically managing that channel for me, and I'm very grateful. He posts every stream. So, and why didn't I see it? I didn't see it because I have my tactical vision in chess is, you know, severely deficient. And that's something. Hey, thank you, Davina. Thank you for the sub. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. And you know, this would have been probably, you know, will end up in Agad Matur's channel or whatever. But you know, here is another thing, and that's a thing. Even after, you know, I didn't play it. Too bad. You know, as Lizzie Pecht said when we analyzed this game. Hey, Audible Dong, Hans Collingsworth, it's very good to see you, so thank you. Oh, and thank you, Hedgehog, for posting the link to the video in there. Thank you. Anyway, so yeah, well, I was wearing glasses, but, you know, I'm not very good. Hey, Audible Dong, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Incidentally, guys, we're rapidly approaching 3,000 followers. When we reach 3,000 followers, there will be a special event that I'm gonna keep it a little bit of secret, but you guys are gonna like it. Anyway, that would be a big million. Yeah, I didn't want to win so easily against, you know, a super, yeah, thanks. Yep, Hans, I'll happily respond after the stream. Thank you. Anyway, so to cut the long story short, I didn't play it, you know, my bad life. I played Rook E1, which is double exclamation mark, but here is another thing. Even after that double exclamation mark, white is so damn much better that, you know, it's still plus 2.2. Darn, okay. Anyway, so the game continues. And incidentally, even after queen d4, I could have played bishop e3 because that rook is, for intents and purposes, has nowhere to go. And I had plenty of other possible moves, but I played, after this I played rook e1. The game continued. Queen f8, incidentally, is not a good move from a computer standpoint, but it's an excellent move from a standpoint of a human, because every human wants to get out of this spin. And also this pawn is a potential target. This rook has a little, once the bishop moves, will have places to go, and so on and so forth. And this is what my next move is very amusing, because I played the right move, a move too late. And of course, I have to admission to make. I saw the move, the right move, one after I already made rook e1. And of course, now this move is not good, and it basically throws away all the advantage. However, this position is still very difficult to play if you're black, because it's not that easy. This pawn is still on c6. This bishop is a monster. This bishop is going to come into play. This rook is very strong, and this rook and knight. I mean, what are the prospects of this knight? h6, f6, e7. This rook is even worse. And incidentally, getting this rook into play is going to show, how super grandmasters get themselves out of trouble. And anyway, to continue the game, rook c7, excellent move. Queen b4, again, not the best move, but frankly, I liked its practical chances, because after, what continued, knight c6, queen b6, there are pins all over the place, and there is potential of, taking on e7, and there are all sorts of mating threats when this bishop comes on f4. Chess guy, this was 5-2. And incidentally, guys, I play adoption matches against strong players every Sunday, Sunday at noon, and this was a special edition because Sergey, we needed to adjust for Sergey's schedule. So I have actually played 22 adoption matches in the last few months, and I have to say they have proven to be extremely useful for my chess advancement. As a matter of fact, I lost that adoption match against Alessia Santeramo. Actually, I lost the third one out of 5, but very honestly, it was a decisive loss. I'm still, too old, too slow, as my famous emote says. But I decided I'm going to play a couple of bullet games, and, my rating went up by 75 points, literally in a few games, because, once you play against, challenge yourself against very strong opposition, it definitely, I have to say, improved my game. Anyway, so there is one more interesting moment here. That's after knight e5, which is not a good move. Bishop f4, which is fine. Sergey made an error, and that error is knight d7. Sergey is called Minister of Defense for a very good reason, because he has built his career. He's a famous player for being very hard to put away, for being a very tough defender. But this was an attempt to consolidate the game. And, and it's an understandable human move. Another option is to play h6 with an idea to get the rook into play, and maybe also activate the knight, because right now this pawn on g5 is basically dominating the knight, and by implication also the rook. Anyway, so I played rook queen b4, and then after knight c5, another mistake. I finally pulled a good move, and this is rook a d1. And here is a second critical moment in the game. You know, the best move for, you know, after the next move, and this is actually a pretty significant blunder. H6, it was played too early. The best move in this position, and this is one occasion when I'm actually kicking myself, because Sergey played g6 in his game against Van Willy, and I didn't remember that motive, unfortunately, on the board when we were playing. You know, g6 here would have been a very good move, because it would prevent rook from developing, it would threaten the mate, and it would have been a really good move. Offershach, do I think that those adoption matches are useful mostly because they motivate you to prepare, or because they yield instructive positions that you study afterwards? You know, the answer to that question is actually both. You know, this may not be immediately obvious. I have a somewhat different image of Twitch, but I'm actually highly competitive. And, you know, these matches challenge me to prepare in a way that I probably wouldn't have done if it were not for these adoption matches. One thing that it definitely helped is I have prepared and acquired a Zen of quite a lot of different opening positions by way of preparing for various opponents. For example, Lara Unuk and I contested a fianchetto variation of King's Indian in virtually every game that she was white, and I had prepared that for her rather extensively, and very honestly I acquired the Zen of that position by the virtue of playing that match. So the answer to that question is both. I think it was very instructive for me. Problem here is that they also provide us a little bit of a distraction, because in many ways opening preparation is my strong part of my chess, and what I really need to focus is, you know, not missing simple one move tactics like that knight e5 or that queen d4, which would have won the game for me. Anyway, to cut a long story short, you know, what I played was rook e7, which is actually not the best move, but it's a move that frankly has very good practical chances in this position. And again, this is another position when, you know, when Stockfish settled down, it would be very hard for Black to defend. And even after this game in the analysis, Sergey said that I should have played rook d6. And with rook d6, you know, the best move in this position, believe it or not, according to the engine, is actually rook d7. And then after rook d7, you know, white is supposed to rook b6 and so on and so forth. Now, it's very hard for a human to play this move, you know, to forego this, this knight. And, you know, I think I had a chance here to basically mix it up even more. Unfortunately, here I'm also have only 21 seconds, and there is no way in 21 seconds I can find all the necessary lines. You know, it's unfortunate. Instead, I played, you know, bishop take on d6, which is not the best move. And after, you know, and then here, surprisingly, Sergey misses the best move. Actually played a subpar move. Rook c8 is really not a good move. And what I needed to play here is, g6 would be a really good move, because that would again prevent the development of this rook, and also would threaten to take on f7, and with some queen c4 checks and so on and so forth, it would have been pretty hard to defend. Even something along, even if not that, any move that would have defended the rook, like bishop f3, because so that rook is no longer pinned on the d file, would have been a really very good, and forget about computer evaluation, would have been really good chance, and so on and so forth. So this was basically my last chance here to win this game. And this is objectively a won position for white yet again. And of course, with 21 seconds and everything else, I didn't find that. I played king h2. I was hoping to step out of the pin, and you can see this computer judged this as missed win. And after taking on g5, there are a couple of problems. First, this rook comes into play. Second, my rook is still pinned, and I decided to sacrifice this. I took on c5, and afterwards, yes, this is a little bit of a tricky position, but I don't have time and I don't have firepower in this position, and obviously Sergey is not gonna let me get away with this. And the game I basically flagged here, and this was basically already a lost position. Hey Bubble Art, it's very good to see you. Thank you for joining the stream. I'm showing this is a special edition of my best losses. I'm showing games I played against Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin last Tuesday. And please give Bubble Art a shout out and a follow. She streams chess. She's a great lady, and please give her a follow. Check her down. Bubble Art, Sergey Karjakin is played in 2016 a match against Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship, and had actually plenty of chances to become a world champion. So. Okay, so to answer, I'm a homeless on Wi-Fi. The best move after rook c8, according to this engine, I think instead of rook c8, it was basically after bishop d6. The best move was basically to play knight e6. Which is not a computer move, which is kind of a computer move. I think a more human move would be to just step out of this potential battery and play king g8. And, again, I'm not gonna look, this is very messy, but I have to tell you one thing. For me, this game has... I think Bubble Art, he's still an active player. He's doing very well in this world, in this Russian super final championship. I think he still have chances to play against Magnus again. Who is going to be the next champion is still anybody's question. Sergey still holds the result. He is the record for being the youngest grandmaster. I think he was a grandmaster when he was 12. So he was a child prodigy. He has been a very strong player for a very, very long time. So here is, big moment. Big moment is, I have two big moments for me in this particular game. 775 against Sergey Karjakin. All I need to do is to find queen d4, and the sad thing is, it's actually a very simple tactic. Fork of the rook, fork of the pawn g7, one of those rooks is gonna fall, game over. That's the rough equivalent of a chess queen. Hey, Chess Melissa, my friend, it's very good to see you. Welcome to the stream. I'm showing my games against Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin. So that's one Twilight Zone moment. But to be very honest with you, even more significant for me is this position, knight d5, playing this against Sergey Karjakin, and this is Sergey Karjakin's, no, I'm sorry, wrong, oh, did I close this? I closed this analysis board. I basically played the variation, the same line that he played against Luc Van Wiele in 2008. How, you know, I mean, short of actually, you know, winning one of these games, how cool is that? In all honesty, I even had a Twitter feed about it. It's how cool is to play against Sergey where Sergey played, and it's such a famous game. Anyway, so that was one missed opportunity. I'm going to show you actually a few more games. This was a game which, you know, obviously after that, this is a pretty sad accuracy. But I want to show you this because although it's a horrible accuracy, the game really didn't go that way. You know, Bishop, this is a standard Yu Lopez. It's a standard anti-martial line. I play martial attack extensively against anybody, and I'm pretty much booked up. And, you know, but here I really forgot the line. I remember that one can play d5, and after this, you know, you have this position, which, from a practical standpoint, is you know, computer is gonna call this, you know, let's maybe stick to this position. It's gonna call this an advantage for white. But I've played this a lot. I played this against Chiu. I played this against Julian Landau. I played against strong and weak opposition. This is a very tricky position for white. And, you know, for me, this was a practical chance. And I'm going to show you the rest of this game because, you know, after knight f4, and here, technically, this is a blunder. I took on b3, which... and then I took on d6, and then, you know, this knight a5 maneuver kind of threw me off a little bit. I really didn't expect that to be played. I took on f3, queen f3, and here, and I'm going to show you this very quickly, I basically fell for a very simple tactic. And again, I am basically here, you know, after g3, I still had a chance to play queen f6. I played instead of, you know, queen h3, and I thought I had some attack. The idea is here, incidentally, in this variation of martial attack, is for black to play f5 and potentially g5 and try to open some files that play against the queen. And obviously after this I shouldn't have taken on b5, but again I missed a very simple, you know, one game, one move tactic, knight e7, and the rook is gone. And yes, Bilby, I know, it's, you know, again, pretty good opening game, basically lost because a single move tactic. And, you know, that's going to turn out to be a pattern. And, you know, I think I know what I need to do in many ways to improve my chess here. But again, you know, this is a bad loss, but it's not a horrible loss. You know, it's... I think I held my own in this opening, and I certainly, and incidentally, Sergey didn't repeat it. So anyway, all right. So that was game number 3. I'm going to show you briefly game number 4, and I'm going to show you a few other. This was Karjakin. And if you look at the report, you will discover that I actually had a fairly decent position well into the game. and I'll show you where I basically let the game slip out of the way. Exactly, Blitz Rider, one mistake and you're done. It's, to be honest with you, true, but you know, in game 2 I had actually more than one chance to play, but I think as the match progressed, I think Sergey figured out how to play against me. There is a saying in Serbian, that chess saying from former Yugoslavia, that basically said, if a Patzer being the weak player, if a Patzer is playing strong moves, give him a little bit of time to come to his senses. And that's basically what he did. And you will see that in the very last game. Anyway, so this was Karjakin, and I played Tal variation. I'm actually fully booked up here. You know, as you will see, I have played this many times. I'm very familiar with this particular line. Knight e2, and I'm gonna switch to the analysis board. This is all perfectly fine, all within the realms of a decent theory. Here I have to give huge credit to Anna Rudolph, who basically we actually analyzed position of this type of positions in one of my co-streams. Taking on h5 is actually really good because, you know, g5 is a horribly misplaced pawn. If you're, you know, you don't want to give h4 as a target, and this knight wants to go to f5 in these positions, and if you cannot maintain it, just take advantage of the open g file. Yes, I'm homeless with Wi-Fi. That's one thing that you know, strong grandmasters have advantage over us mere mortals. It's they know how to play difficult positions and maximize their chances. Anyway, that's the difference between professional players, title players, and not title players. Still, objectively, I was very happy with my position here. And you know, knight f4 is not the best move, but it still keeps the game within the realms of playability, for lack of a better word. And here, you know, rook h8, take on c5. That's also, I'm happy to see that computer considers the best move. Take on c5, take on c5, take on c5, and then here is another, if you want, set of blinkers that manifested themselves here. The best move by a very significant margin here is to play knight d3, and the idea here being that, you know, knight on d3 threatens the queen and also consolidates this weak pawn on e5. And you know, yours truly never, you know, never missing the opportunity to kind of mix it up. I decided I'm not gonna count the pawns, and I took on g7, which is actually not a good move. I really needed here to, you know, to basically try to consider saving this pawn, because this e5 pawn for this g7 pawn is actually a bad trade. I was hoping for an attack, and this is still an equal position, but you know, after this and, you know, castling long and castling long again, this is, and now playing knight d3, of course, again 2 moves too late, and exchanging and taking with a queen, which is really not really a careless mistake. My plan on this position was to basically swing this queen either to g3 or to h3 and kind of hope for some attack. But I have neglected my pawns, which incidentally Sergey was kind enough not to take it immediately, but I kept hoping for some sort of an attack on the black king that really is not possible to happen. And after, you know, after a few of these moves, you know, this was basically a resignable position, and at this point I flagged it, didn't have time, I lost the game. So this was game number 4, and you know, I was still optimistic because I was holding my own. Hey, Chess Vidovi, welcome to the stream. Very good to see you. I'm showing, this is my Basel Lessons Monday. I'm showing the games from my match against one and only Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin. Anyway, to cut a long story short, after this game number 5, and you will see that this game also had its opportunities. Again, we're playing Gioco Pianissimo, and I'm gonna actually go through this relatively quickly. I am reasonably familiar with this position. I've played this against Dylan Belenkaya. I've played this against quite a lot of very strong players. I had a special lessons on stream with Tanya how to handle these positions. And yeah, thanks. In all honesty, I cannot repeat this more often. For somebody like me in 1950, chess.com, somewhere around 2000 on a good day, to play against a super GM, somebody who played a world championship match, that's like, I can't imagine a bigger honor, you know. Anyway, it was really a dream come true. It's like playing Bobby Fischer, really. That's how it felt. So that's a huge honor, and I'm still in awe that was even possible. And I have to thank Maria Emelianova for helping make that possible. That was really a dream come true for me. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I'm reasonably familiar with these positions. Yes, Goran Zaric, and Sergey is a really nice guy. I'm actually quite serious. He was very, very nice, very humble, was very happy to analyze these games. He was very friendly. Couldn't be a nicer person, really. It puts lies to the statement that, you know, to be successful you need to kind of have an edge. He didn't have the edge. He was just a very nice guy. Anyway, so H3, D6, all of these I have played millions of times in these adoption matches of mine. I was very familiar with these positions. This was the plans are very familiar. Basically, the idea is for white to put both sides want to put knights on f5 and f4, for f5 for white, f4 for black. Black both sides need to push d4 or d5, some sort of a break for in center, and it was, and to neutralize these very strong bishops in some way possible. So I should have probably played d5 here, which is a computer recommendation, but castling it was a perfectly normal decision. And g4, and this is something that I learned from both from Elizabeth Pecht after she and I actually analyzed the games from this match. The way to handle for this position is, do not play g4 until the other side castles. And very honestly, one thing that was hugely beneficial for this match is they got an insight in the way very strong grandmasters think. And what Lizzie told me was, and she's as usual spot on, was, Nicola, Sergey was waiting for you to castle to play g4. In other words, you are better served here not castling, although computer said it's the best move. I would have better off from a competitive standpoint to just play immediate d5 and and basically contest in center. And one thing that I've been struggling for in this position is I routinely miss timing for these in these games, when is the right moment to play d5. And anyway, so I lost several games thinking Grandmaster and Muzichuk for that sole reason. In other words, I had a d5 breakthrough and I didn't pull the trigger when it was feasible, but a couple of moves too late. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I castled. This is still perfectly fine. Knight e7 is already a little bit too slow. Black really doesn't have time for this maneuver to end up on f4. This was probably the last convenient moment where I should have played d5. That's also what computer says. I didn't, and then I played knight e7, knight g3, knight e6, which is a very good move, but it's a very good move if I play d5. And Sergey played immediate g5, takes, which, you know, computer actually doesn't like, but I have to tell you one thing. When you're actually sitting across the board, this position looks very scary because the plan for the white is rather obvious. You know, some sort of a h-pawn push, some sort of a knight h5, queen h5, and it's a very mentally challenging to defend this, especially on a relatively fast time control. To calculate the defensive opportunities, 5 plus 2 is actually not very fast. Anyway, take on b3, knight g6, h4, d5, and here I am, you know, playing d5. You know, I don't want to say too little too late, but it is too little too late. I should have played d5 before this. Before this pawn on h4, before knight on g5, before this knight was poised to play it, come on f5. And this is very scary. Queen f3, obviously best move, exchange, and this is already a very good position for white. And here, to be very surprisingly enough, Sergey actually misplayed and let me into the game. This bishop e3 missed an opportunity to play h5, which would have been, you know, completely crushing and even allowing for this. Basically, black here has nothing. It has queen f2, single check, and there is nothing there. Of course, Sergey is also human, and for him, allowing queen f2 he didn't like the idea, so he basically just played the safe bishop e3 move. He still has advantage, but then I just had enough time to save myself from a mating attack by playing queen c6, and obviously white has to exchange queens, which is, you know. However, the problem with this position is that this is a horrible endgame. You know, and this is not a good endgame to play by anybody's standards. And, you know, obviously, if you are Sergey, and even honestly, even I would know this. Hey, Eddie Barber, my friend, it's very good to see you. I am showing games from my match against Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin. This is game number 5. So what does he do? He puts, you know, he doesn't even want to spend too much time thinking. He's gonna put the knight on c5, where he completely dominates the position. Oh, sorry. Anyway, we'll figure out what we can do. We may actually arrange for Sergey to come and give an online simul and so on. Hey, Chessbra, I presume it's Eric. Hi, Eric. It's very good to see you. I'm showing games from my match against the one and only Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin. This is game number 5. I ended up in a horrible endgame, which frankly I was lucky to survive that attack. So he's basically playing it safe, knight c5, and in all honesty, the rest is very simple technique. I actually defended this fairly well. I am very happy about knight h8 move, but really there is little here, and I think at this point I flagged, and that was you know, the end of the game. And what transpired in this game, very frankly, was that, Sergey slowly... Oh yes, congratulations, Chesinovi. 63 move game with 2 inaccuracies, 0 blind, 0 mistake with... That's beautiful. Yeah. It's that's a very nice game. Congratulations. So, so I was a little bit, I don't want to, wasn't discouraged, but you can see that Sergey has figured out how to play against me. In other words, he played without, there's no need to risk anything. Like, objectively, the best computer move in this position is to play h5 and then allow this because black doesn't have anything. But why would Sergey bother doing it, although it's now +7 or whatever. He just played bishop e3 and he completely outplayed me in the end game. Anyway, so that was game 5. I'm going to show you game 6. And I'm actually going to show you game 6 from 2 different standpoints because that also has an interesting backstory. Because I actually prepared this line against Grandmaster Anna Muzichuk, and I'm going to show you very briefly how I managed to blunder that game fairly quickly. So this is a sacrifice. I played this a lot. I played this against Chiu, and knight d4, bishop g5. I'm going to digress for a few seconds. I'm going to show you very quickly my game in which I managed to have, almost 40% better accuracy against a very strong grandmaster, one of the strongest women grandmasters in the world, and I managed to lose this game. So this is the same line, and here is the danger, which is why I practice this. And you see bishop g5, that's a normal line, h6, bishop h4. g5 here is an absolutely horrible blunder because it allows f4. And f4 basically leads to a very tough line, and actually, because this knight is potentially hanging, this knight is potentially pinning, and the beautiful line here is if black tries to play a normal line, this is an immediate killer, and that's the trap in this position. What happened here was that basically Anna missed that didn't go into that line. She still played queen e7, which is a bad move, and after this I have +6 against Anna Muzichuk. And what happened? I managed to lose this game in 2 moves. And so that's kind of the sad background story behind me playing this line. All I needed to do here is to play simple king h1, and this is for all intents and purposes all marbles to play with. And queen c4, bishop, something like queen c4, bishop f6, and there is, anyway, so I managed to mess this up. But I had this prepared, and I'll show you, this is basically the critical line for this. All of this is perfectly fine, this is part of the prep, and this is actually the best move in this position. That's the critical line, and after take on f6, take on d1, take on d8, takes on d8, takes on d8 again, takes on d1 again, knight c2. I have had this position on my board, and we actually studied this with Alex Lopez when we were preparing for Chio. This is a drawn ending. And this is a drawn ending in... but it's very tough to prove draw ending against a Super GM, if you're not a Super GM yourself. So we basically prepare this for Chiu, and I managed to actually swindle Chiu in one of the games and actually win one of these games in this line. We contested this, I think, 3 times before I finally won one game. But yeah, drawing somebody like drawing against Sergey is a tough task. Anyway, I'll show you how I lost this game. It's very instructive because you know, all of this is perfectly fine, and this is definitely draw. But what I missed here was that, you know, this is basically the last moment where this knight needs to come back into play. The plan for black is rather obvious. Black wants to push and create 2 connected pass pawns supported by both rooks in the center. And once black succeeds into doing it, white really cannot stop them, especially if the knight is stuck here on a3. So what happened here, I played king f3, bad move, and f5, obviously best move. Sergey basically turned on his, put the gas on, and I made here a single imprecise move. I should take it with e-pawn, and after this, I am basically, you can forget the rest of the game. It's not that important. I'm here completely lost, and here I flagged in the lost position. Yes, K2 Hegemon. I played Sergey Karjakin in against the adoption match, and you know, for what's worth, I had a plus 7.5 in one of the games, believe it or not. Had also the honor of playing the man, playing his own line against him, which is honestly still very cool. I still can't believe that actually happened. Yeah, fair enough. It's an equal ending. It was, you know, I'm quite sure he would have probably beaten me with white. But the thing is, it's black's plan is very straightforward, and it's obvious, and it's relatively easy to execute. And white really needs to be very precise to defend it. So, hey, Alisobi70, my dear friend, it's very good to see you. Thank you. Anyway, so basically this was exactly the Barber. Holy moly, I know, you know, and not to mention, and you know, you came after this. In game 2, I had a completely won game. I'm one tactic away from winning the match. You know, winning the actual game and winning a game against Sergey Karjakin, playing his own continuation against Lukmanvili. What can one say? It's amazing. Anyway, so the next game, is, I'm not even sure I want to show you. I'm pretty sure this is the game we played. Yeah, we played London, and I got killed, and you know, frankly, I was a little bit worried when we were planning the match, that all of the games are going to end up in which he's going to have 99.1 accuracy, and he's going to kill me in 15 moves, which is what happened here. Yeah, he basically caught me into a bad line of London, and I forgot the proper line. You know, this is all perfectly fine, but you know, I'm not supposed to play, you know, playing knight h5 here was just stupid, and I let him put his bishop on c7, and I basically got slaughtered. And you know, it's I'm actually, objectively speaking, more games should have gone like this, but thankfully they didn't, because I would have been a little bit salty if all games went like this. Anyway, so that's game 7. Game 8. was interesting because we again played the Sicilian. We played a different continuation, and here is another example of here is the crucial moment. He offered me to play this endgame, and I had a very good position. I handled this very well. This was my chance for a draw, because this is a drawn position. No side has advantage. The problem is that he was able here to maximize his advantages. I should have played here f4, and and then yours truly, when started running out of time, walked into a blunder. Look at this. This is basically all zeros, 24. But I didn't have the right plan, and I thought that I could play b4, and that was one mistake, and basically game over. And I flagged here because I didn't know what to play, and my position collapsed. So I'm a little, I have lost too many endgames in these adoption matches alongside these lines, and I'm probably going to have to figure out how to... Yeah, Alisovi, accuracy was 99.1%. Yeah, absolutely. And for the record, I showed his game that he played against Lukmanvili when his accuracy was 99.5. What can you say? Correct, Goran Zaric, exactly. Hvala, Gorane. It's very hard to calculate this. Obviously, I'm slow, as my bullet match against Alessio Santeramo yesterday showed. I cannot calculate very fast, and anyway. So, to cut a long story short, this is yet another game, and we mixed this up. And here is another thing. I played this continuation against Laura Unukalot to understand the zen of this position. The idea here, and I'm not gonna spend too much time on elaborating, because I really want to spend some time talking about the game 10, which was very, very instructive. So I went in, and the idea here is for black to open one of the B or C files and kind of put the heavy artillery there to eliminate pieces, rook and all the other pieces from this diagonal, big h1a diagonal, and so on and so forth. I played plenty of these games, not just with Laura Unuk, but also from Teja Vidic, and that actually told in a bad way in this game, and I'm gonna explain why. All of this is still perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal. Bishop e6. Computer prefers bishop b7, but that's fine. Knight g5, and here is, if you want, a strategic moment in this game. The strategic moment in this game is that this is equality. This is move 15. And move 15, after the opening, the position is roughly equal. Computer even gives it 3 zeros. Yeah, exactly. The best line is to play bishop g3, bishop g4, and then, if you induce f3 is bad, because, then this pawn ends up being pinned, and the king is weak, and so on and so forth. But... I've won a game against Teja Vidic, one of the ladies. She's a WIM. She represents Slovenia on the Olympics, so she's one of the Chiquitas. And you know, I basically said, you know what, I'm actually going to let Sergey take on e6, because if he takes, then I have f-file to, then I have a f-file to play against. And to answer your question, I'm homeless on Wi-Fi. Normally, if the first game is drawn, and that actually happened a couple of times, I drew the very first game of the very first adoption match against Nemo WGM Chiu Zhao. We normally either start in Chiu's match, we say, okay, there is a second chance, or we play for half adoption, 5 games. We somehow always end up playing full 10 games, which is really, you know, kind of a point of the match as far as I'm concerned, for me to be able to give, you know, play with very strong masters and grandmasters. So anyway, so I basically played here a really bad move, which computer hates, and it's objectively a losing move, knight g4. But mind you, this is after I lost several endgames and several positions that are equal. I decided to mix it up and see if I can hope for some sort of an error and blunder. And that blunder wasn't forthcoming. Knight e6, which actually is not the best move. Best move was h3, but that's really beside the point. Takes, knight e6. And then I'm here trying to generate some counterplay alongside the f-file, but that counterplay never materialized. Knight c5, knight f2, but you know, this is basically pretty bad rather quickly, and game over. And yeah, there's two honorary checks, and you know, I'm out of time and out of this. I don't want this to come as, but I'm pretty sure that the 2750 Grandmaster can probably adopt 2350 or 2250 WGN. So in many ways, I was here, you know, playing something that actually worked from a slightly weaker opposition, though still much stronger than me, but this definitely didn't work against Sergey. So that made the score 9-0, and I have one more game to show, and that's actually, surprisingly enough, believe it or not, that's the only game in this match in which my accuracy was high, believe it or not, higher than Sergey's. And I'm a little salty about this game because I don't want to say I lost, but yeah, of course, I mean, please, you know, can you imagine? I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's what matters is the experience, the opportunity, everything else. It's just I'm certainly not unhappy that I played all these matches. Anyway, so we played a Sicilian again, but this time we played Marozzi Bind. And I'm gonna give a huge shout out to one and only Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, because he taught me how to play these positions. And the way to play these positions, very honestly, because I historically played them by playing b3 and f3, and then having hard time dealing with this. And you know, not that Daniel needs a shout out from me, but I think it's GM Naroditsky is his. You know, yeah, that's, I hope, yeah, that's Daniel. He basically explained to me one very strong thing is that, no, I shouldn't be playing b3 and f3, I should play f4 and b4, and basically prevent any knight jumps on c5 or e5, and play with, you know, to restrict, to gain space advantage for white and so on, because that's ultimately what this is all about. And honestly, it kind of worked, because knight c3, obvious move, queen c7, bishop e2, and b6, which is actually the move I haven't seen before, and honestly, I didn't have the theoretical line to play, But one great thing about Danya's approach is that he teaches you the zen of the position. In other words, the long-term strategic pattern, not necessarily direct lines. And the direct line, and obviously I could have played f4 here. Instead I castled, bishop b7, queen d3, and incidentally queen d3 is a key move in these positions because it consolidates both these pawns and this knight, which are potential targets of black's attack. And e6, f4. All right, so this is better position for white, objectively. It's far from winning, but it's definitely not worse. And here is where, basically I just am realizing that I'm following Danya's guideline, and obviously after knight d7, I'm not allowing knight to go to c5, I'm playing b4. Okay, so bishop e7, normal move, rook e3. Basically, I'm waiting here for black to castle to play g4. And, and I'm down here for 2 minutes because I am realizing that this is game 10. I still have a chance to win this. And I don't want to say nervous, but I'm a little bit, Hey, Billy, frankly, I like Danya's approach. So, anyway, so what happened here, honestly, is, he plays a useful move. He's basically waiting me out here. And, rook c1, queen b8. In other words, this is, I don't want to say a waiting game, but it is a waiting game. And bluntly, this, I'm not salty about not winning game number 2, although +7 was sweet. I'm salty about 2 positions because I'm salty about losing that, bishop pair plus knight endgame. And yeah, he said exactly Fan Gold. He basically wants to play queen a8. And my next move is basically to play bishop f3, which is not the right move. What I needed to do here is basically not wait for him to finish the strategic regrouping. I needed to play here f5. And frankly, I don't know what happened, but I didn't play f5, not because I was worried, but because, I spent, and you will see after my next move, I spent 30 seconds thinking about what to play. And then I played a prophylactic move. Yeah, text chess, but f5 was objectively the best chance. The best chance, incidentally, and that's one thing I'm almost 100% certain, is for a weak player to defeat a stronger player is some sort of a very wild attack, like the game I showed earlier, game 2. I'm 100% certain that's basically the right approach. And anyway, I didn't play that, and I don't know if you got the raid, but for the guys who have just joined us, I'm showing my match against Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin. This is basically the last game. So I played bishop f3, which is still a very good move, but then he played h5, and h5 is not objectively a good move, but he is, Sergey is a grandmaster of, he is Minister of Defense. That's his chess nickname. And he basically, I was planning to wait out for him to castle and then play g4, because that was one of the plans that Danya told me. And he basically prevented that plan. And, one of the computer lines, if you look here, was basically to play you know, h3 and then push. What happened here was that I really didn't know what to do. You know, it's game 10. I have a fairly decent position, and for the record, in most of the games, I had a fairly decent position up until to move 15. I didn't know what to do. I spent too much time thinking about it. Then I played a safe move that loses half of the advantage. And then he finally castled. I played another safe move. And, you know, I basically spent a minute trying to figure out what I'm going to do, which was really, really, I don't know how to say, stupid. And to be quite frank, I'm not kicking myself for not winning game 2. I'm not necessarily kicking myself for being, you know, for not drawing these end games. But I have here, and I spent a minute and then I played a bad move. You know, I could have played e5, which is objectively not a bad move. I should have played, actually queen e2 was a perfectly natural move. That's actually the best computer move. You know, I could have even played, you know, just about anything. Instead, I basically contemplated, I don't know what I was contemplating, and then I played knight e2, and now I'm down to 7 seconds, and knight g4. It's still not, you know, the best move, and, you know, I'm still better, and I'm still better, and this is now equal, and here I flagged. And, you know, So, honestly, not seeing queen d4 indicates a tendency in my game that's really worrisome, and that tendency is, I don't know how to say this, it's a failure of a nerve, I guess. And, you know, anyway, so I'm upset about this game, to be honest, guys. I'm not upset about any other game that I've lost. I'm not even upset about the whole adoption match. The adoption match was a great opportunity to learn, and you know, in many ways, you know, I'm going to go back to, you know, this position is just you know, playing this against the Super GM is probably the highlight of my chess career. Getting a Super Grandmaster into a position in which, you know, this evaluation bar at 775, Queen D4 is immediate winning, and there is the, you know. But this was the opportunity of basically winning game 2, and you know, that would have been really sweet scalp, but it didn't happen. Even afterwards, there were plenty of other opportunities. I still think that you know, if I, instead of taking here with I think rook e7 is a perfectly fine move. I should have taken with a knight. And that would have been impressive. But what basically happened was that Sergey, after a couple of games of playing with me, figured out how to play against me, and he played very solid. He didn't risk anything, and he could always count that he could outplay me in the end game. So, guys, here is basically the strategic plan for Nikolai in the next few months. You know, for me to improve. Hey, Julian, my friend, it's very good to see you. A huge shout out to one and only FIDE Master Julian Landau. Please give him a follow, and he's a dear friend of mine. We have had quite a lot of fun together. He also, honestly, was one of the people that should have adopted me, but then he flagged literally with needlessly in the very last game 10. So I'm very good to see Julian. my strategy here, honestly, is if I'm going to improve in chess, how on earth am I, how many opportunities like this am I going to have in my chess career? And this is not even a difficult tactic. Playing knight d5 is a brave move. Missing knight queen d4 is, if you want, a structural error in my game that needs to be addressed. So you guys can expect in the next few days we're gonna have a special stream dedicated to Nicola learning tactics. I don't yet know the details, but there is definite need for yours truly to improve his tactical vision, and we'll see what goes. If I can bring my tactical vision to where my opening preparations are, I'm probably going to be a much better chess player. So let's see what happens. All right, guys, thank you for being with here. This is actually ended up being a 2-hour stream, which is not that long. It was, once again, it was a very big honor to play against Sergey. I actually do not have an opponent for this coming Sunday. I'm still working on it. Frankly, I'm a little exhausted with all these adoption matches. And I need to give a shout out to Alessia Santeramo. I basically allowed myself to be adopted by accepting to play a series of bullet matches against her. I'm not ready. I'm still too old, too slow. But yes, she adopted me yesterday. Congratulations to Alessia. And on my next stream, yes, the Alessia swindle. Through that, yes, took her a couple of tries, but I should have allowed her one try. But anyway, it's fine. It was actually useful because, very frankly, I then played a few bullet games after the match, and my bullet rating went up by 75 points with no effort. So that proves that this approach is actually right. Oh, thank you, Dishelf. Yes, the tactic is easier when you already know there is one. Anyway. That's absolutely true, but funny thing is that both Maria Yemenganova and Eric Rosen and Maria and I about the same strength, but she immediately saw Queen D4, and which I of course didn't. But to continue with the program announcement, my next stream is on Wednesday at 7 a.m. New York time with the one and only Elizabeth Bechts, with which she tortures me in her unique way with various positions. Hey, Dirkje, it's very good to see you. And after that, there'll be a Friday chess-based lesson with Alex, or maybe not. Alex has some obligations. He needs to finish a chessable class course, and on Saturday there is an Open Philly Media Arena. So, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. Let's see, whom should we raid is a very big question. Let's see, who is streaming? Danya has a lot of viewers. Let's stream somebody who is... I haven't... I'm going to send you to to Grandmaster Benjamin Bach, who is a strong Dutch Grandmaster. He also already started streaming, so let me send you there, send him my regards, and I'm gonna join you soon, and looking forward to seeing you with Elizabeth on Wednesday morning. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye. Oh no. And of course, Benjamin is raiding me. Okay, very good. Cancel the raid. So let's accept the raid, and then let's Hey, all right. So Benjamin, I was just about to raid you, and you are. Well, my bullet skills have improved. Thanks. Hey, Benjamin, it's very good to see you. I was showing games from my match against one and only Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin. And for the Raiders, I'm just actually going to spend exactly a couple of minutes. Yes, I saw that. So, Benjamin, look at the position here and all of your chess Raiders, which a 1950 guy had against one and only Grandmaster Sergey Karjakin. I had plus 775. I needed to find Queen d4, and I would have had something to tell my grandchildren. Of course, I missed it, and that didn't end up well. For the purpose of the Raiders, I'm just gonna run through the one game that I was able to win. Well, I'm not able to win. I should have been able to win. So this is game 2 of adoption match I played last Tuesday. Basically, it was in Adam's attack. And here is a standard variation. And I have actually managed to close this from chess.com. But if you look up a variation, a game against that Sergey played against Lukmanvili, this was the game, and the move that won the game for Sergey and almost won it for me was knight d5. That's basically how Adam's attack became popular. And I'll show you the rest of the game. Basically, this is all known theory. And here is the key moment. The key moment was to play here Queen d4, and white has a won position because there is a fork with a rook here, and Mono g7 after rook on h8 is toast. And thank you, Hedgehog. He posted the YouTube link with the whole event with Sergey. Anyway, let me put it this way. I've posted this on Twitter, and with this I'm gonna end the stream. Hey, Fan123, it's very good to see you. Thank you. Bottom line is this. I got to play a Super GM, which only could happen in 2020. You know, for 1950 to play at 2750. I also got to play against his own line from 2008 game against him. How cool is that? And lastly, I had very decent chance of actually winning this. So the conclusion, Nicola, your chess in order for your chess to improve, you need to start seeing Queen d4 type forks, which are very simple one-move forks if you need to improve your chess. So we'll work on that. Anyway, thank you, Fan. Thank you for the follow. Thank you again, guys, for being here. Hey, G. Brazel, my dear friend. It's very good to see you. So now we need to find, since we wanted to raid Benjamin, we are going to send you to somebody else. You know, I owe Bigfoot a couple of raids, so I'm gonna raid Bigfoot. He's a friend and he is a great streamer, and we want to encourage him to stream more, so let's send him a raid. He is playing against viewers, I think. So say hello to Bigfoot for me, and good night, guys. My next stream is lessons with one and only Elizabeth Pechts. That's 7 a.m. on Wednesday. I will see you. Thank you, Bullet Mercenary, for being here. Good night, guys. I will see you on Wednesday. And there we go. Say hello to Bigfoot for me. Thank you, Dirkia. Thank you, guys.